Life is deep and profound. It's obviously there for the taking. Whenever I use the word life or love, I always think of a capital L. Because it's not something that I need to generate. It's something that already exists, that I just need to enter. I think often the entering in is the challenge. I don't want to go down that route now. Paul had this thing that he said, and he's a man that had experiential knowledge, experiences of this. It's not a theoretical model that he gave us just to live our lives by. But he said suffering produces perseverance, which builds character. And when you have character, you will have a hope that will not and never disappoint you. I've often thought, if you ask the general population, the normal person on the street, where does one get hope? I doubt whether they would tell you from my suffering. They would say, no, I scroll down my timeline on Facebook and there I get a lot of hope because of all the nice verses and all the nice pictures that I can see. There's where I get my hope, which is not wrong because we get inspired by that. But if you really think, maybe Paul's paradigm of where hope comes from suffering. Suffering. And I'm not talking about being, a missionary and being sent to China and there you suffer in some kind of jail when they catch you and say, listen, you're a Christian, we're not Christian. We put people like you in jail. I'm not talking about that suffering. I'm talking about the suffering of your life. The things you and I have to deal with. Sometimes it could just be the suffering of a mundane, routine life with no excitement. That's suffering. Or your child that has now grown into some other needs that they have. Some other things now came up. Or your husband with his new ways now he's on this mission. And you're not there. Where the heck does he think up all this stuff? That might be your suffering for a week. All of these things that we can experience as suffering has the potential to create in us perseverance. Perseverance means to carry on, irrespective of whether we find it comfortable or not. And in persevering, if your child becomes 30 years old, you will have to persevere 30 years with such a child. If your child becomes 40 and still lives in the house, you will have to persevere for 40 years with a child like that. But that perseverance is translated and eventually becomes character. To have a character. Character is not personality. You can have a very charismatic personality. You can impress people right, left, and center. That's not character. You can have a great bank balance. You can have fame in this world. You can have applause every day. People looking to you and say, I wish I was like you. You can have beauty, physical beauty. You can have anything, but that's not character. That's not character. We are not born with character, but we are born with the potential to develop character. But character does not develop by reading a book or by watching a documentary on character or even by listening to me. That's not going to give you character. I just give you the framework of thinking. But when you go through your suffering and you persevere and persevere and persevere and bite fast and bite fast and persevere, eventually the perseverance will translate into character. And the next seasons of suffering will be less intense. It might even be experienced as less broken. My son's situation, I don't even think of it as being broken anymore. When they do on the birthdays, it catches me, it gets to me. Then I don't wish for another child, but I feel the brokenness because I open myself to go there on that day. And then I would cry and I would be sad and I would be disorientated the whole day and feel, wens ek kon papa sê, net vandag. Just today. But it doesn't happen. But apart from that, just coming back to the perseverance that eventually translates into character, that is where you and I will get hope from. That is where we transcend what is available to us, what we would like to experience in this life, where, because hope transcends, goes beyond. Hope goes beyond what we can see with these eyes, smell with this nose, taste with this mouth, hear with these ears, touch with this skin. Hope transcends that. I once heard a woman that was on a stayover, that stayed for the night at our house. She came from Iris Ministries in Mozambique on her way back to Canada. She's a missionary. It was 9/11. And the day when 9/11 happened in America, in New York. And she got hold of her daughter, which apparently I heard stayed in New York. I think her daughter's name might be Rebecca because she kept on saying Becky. And her daughter wasn't of the Christian orientation. She said, Becky, you have to have a hope beyond this world. You have to have a hope beyond this world. This world is not enough to give you hope. The brokenness of our children, we have to move beyond that. Maybe not today, not this week, not this month, not this year, but eventually. We have to move beyond the brokenness of things which we had no control over, things we would not have chosen if it was up to us. Where do we get that hope? We get it from that suffering. We get it from persevering. Because you know as a parent, you know as a married couple, you will never throw this child away. You will want to resign. Where can I resign from being a parent of this child? Or any other child for that matter now. Where can I get that form? I want to complete it, sign it, and get the deal done. And no, ain't going to happen. Go and sleep, get some strength again, wake up, and be ready for another day. And that next day will pose its unique problems and challenges as well. But let me tell you, I can speak for us, we can speak together about this. We have character. If not now, it's in the process of developing. But we have character. Character, fundamentally, acts like a foundation on which God in His grace comes and He places the dream of your life on. And the deeper the foundation, the bigger the dream. I sometimes believe. It's not in vain. It's not in vain. It's not an experiment. It's not coming from a God that does not intimately, deeply, loves you so much that in His expression of loving you, He is willing to get His Son murdered for you to belong to Him. It comes from Him. Do we understand that kind of paradoxical wisdom? We don't, for many years. on this journey? Is it senseless? Often we think it is. Do we want it? In the beginning, definitely not. Would we like it to be different? Absolutely. There's a thing in life which I call the givenness. And the givenness itself is very paradoxical often. And I don't know always how one makes peace with the givenness of life. Givenness are those things that are given to you, which you had no choice about. And it operates on many levels. You being a male, it's given. Didn't have a choice whether you could be male or female. You being born as an Afrikaner, or Englishman, or a Frenchman, or an American, or a Chinese. There's no way you had some input into that decision before it happened. Many things like that are givenness, but also life circumstances. Apart from the genetics, etc., of the givenness, sometimes life circumstances falls into the category of a givenness, which you and I, if we had an opportunity to choose before it happened, most probably would have chosen differently. That's why I say I don't know how do we make peace with the givenness. But what I do know, if one does make peace with the givenness, a lot of peace comes. A lot of resolve comes. A lot of that which you carry, which is a heavy load, is thrown off. A lot of breathing space, putting your head above the water comes when you make peace with the givenness. Is it easy? I don't think so. I think it needs a process. I think it needs a time. I think it runs its course in its own way to eventually come to that place where you can say, I would still choose differently, but deeply, I think I'm okay with this. To eventually come to the place to say, wouldn't want it anywhere else. Wouldn't think of it to have it any different. This is it. This is it. This is what was necessary. This is what is given. This is what I embrace. This is what I love. I do believe we can get there. Maybe not today, but we can.